You're a man who's lived a life. You've weathered storms, built a career, maybe a family, and have the scars and wisdom to prove it. You've navigated the complexities of relationships and probably survived a few heartbreaks. You've cultivated a quiet confidence that only comes from experience. Then, a younger woman enters the picture. She's a whirlwind of energy, full of a vibrancy you haven't felt in a while. She's direct, maybe a little unpredictable, and she gives you her undivided attention. This attention is intoxicating. It's an undeniable jolt of dopamine. It makes you feel seen, relevant, and alive in a way you may have forgotten was possible. And right there, at the intersection of flattery and excitement, is where many men begin to lose their way. They forget that their value isn't in their ability to be young again, but in the deep, unshakable strength they've built over a lifetime. Instead of standing firm in their established world, they start to shrink, to soften their edges, and to contort themselves to fit into hers. They mistake a shared connection for a need to become her peer. This is the moment the dynamic shifts. The attraction begins to evaporate as she stops seeing a grounded man and starts seeing a guy trying too hard. This isn't about judgment. It's a wake-up call. It's about protecting your self-respect, your dignity, and your true masculine energy. We're going to explore the critical mistakes to avoid and how a Stoic man, a man in full possession of himself, would navigate this dynamic differently. This isn't just about dating, it's a blueprint for living a more centered, authentic life. You've earned the right to be a man of substance. Let's make sure you don't give that away. 1. Don't try to be her age, your edge is your experience. One of the most common and subtle traps an older man falls into is trying to shrink his world to fit hers. This isn't a conscious decision. It starts with a well-intentioned desire to connect, to feel relatable. You might find yourself trying to talk like her, adopting her slang, or feigning knowledge of her pop culture references. You're trying to be her peer, but in doing so, you lose the very thing that made you intriguing in the first place. When you try to act like you're the same age, she stops seeing the composed, experienced man and starts seeing a man who is insecure and trying to impress. Women, especially younger ones, have an intuitive sense for authenticity. A man mimicking a younger lifestyle feels inauthentic, not because of the age gap, but because of the insecurity it reveals. Your age isn't a disadvantage, it's your greatest asset. You've lived. You've failed and risen again. You carry a profound, quiet presence that can only be forged through time in the trenches of life. That's what draws her in, the gravity of your history, not your ability to name a trending TikTok dance. The most attractive thing you can do is stand still and be solid. Let her youthful energy dance around you while you remain the unmoving center. Real-world example, she mentions a popular 20-something influencer. You could pretend to know who that is, maybe even pull out your phone and fake a search. Or, you could simply smile and say, I don't follow that stuff much. I'm more into conversations that don't disappear in 24 hours. That one sentence is strength. It's a statement of difference. It's the paradox of attraction, the moment you stop trying to be relatable, you become magnetic. 2. Don't become her emotional sponge, offer calm, not a crutch. Another critical mistake is becoming a younger woman's emotional sponge. This begins with a desire to be the mature, stable man she can lean on. She shares stories of her past, her exes, her life chaos. You listen because you want to help, to be the one who understands her. You might think this emotional caretaking is building a deep connection, but it's a trap. What you believe is romantic intimacy is often emotional outsourcing. She is subconsciously gravitating toward your stability, but if you mistake this for attraction, you will become her therapist, her dumping ground, her midnight phone call, and you will get stuck in the most frustrating position possible, the friend zone dressed up as intimacy. You'll hear about her problems, but it won't lead to respect or desire. A Stoic man provides calm by simply being calm. He listens without rescuing. He offers insight without becoming emotionally entangled. There's a crucial difference between being emotionally available and being emotionally absorbent. One is grounded, the other is needy dressed up as nice. A man who has mastered his own emotions doesn't let someone else's turbulence pull him off course, no matter how pretty the storm looks. Real-world example, she calls you crying about a recent fight with her family. Instead of diving into fix-it mode, you can simply say, that sounds like a lot to handle. I hope you give yourself the space to figure it out. That one line signals that you are present, but not caught. She feels seen but cannot latch on and pull you into her emotional storm. This is Stoicism in practice. It's not about being cold, it's about honoring your own peace. 3. Never chase her validation, your worth is your own. Chasing a younger woman's validation is a silent killer of respect. This doesn't look like desperation at first. It's subtle, an extra compliment, waiting longer for her replies, or softening your standards to keep her interested. You are filtering your truth for her approval. The moment you need her validation, you stop leading and start pleasing. You become a performer orbiting her emotional world, and that's not attraction, it's erosion. A younger woman, still figuring herself out, instinctively senses when your center is off balance. When you bend to her will instead of standing firm, she may begin to test you more, to pull back, to see if you will chase. You don't win her respect by being agreeable, you win it by being centered. Stoicism teaches that a man's value isn't dependent on how others see him but on how he sees himself. When you stop caring about her approval, you reclaim your power. You're not just a man anymore. You are the source of your own gravity. This is especially critical for an older man because your value isn't in being fun or relatable, it's in being unshakable. The contrast, your emotional stillness against her chaotic curiosity, is what draws her in. Deeper issue, many older men chase validation because they fear irrelevance. They think, if I lose her, I won't get another chance like this. That's scarcity talking, not truth. You're not losing a chance, you're dodging a trap. Chasing validation also leads to self-betrayal, agreeing with things you don't believe in, laughing at jokes that aren't funny, and tolerating behavior that insults your standards. This isn't peace, it's self-erasure. The paradox is that the moment you stop chasing her validation, you give her something far more magnetic, something to prove herself to. 4. Don't try to impress, lead instead. You are not here to impress her. Let that sink in. Modern dating seems to suggest the opposite, but when you're an older man, trying to impress a younger woman destroys your edge. When you shift from leading to performing, you make her the judge and yourself the contestant. You are no longer holding the frame, you are asking her to hold it for you. Leadership isn't domination. It's about direction, presence, and stability. When you are with a younger woman, especially one who's used to the emotional chaos of guys her age, she secretly craves someone who doesn't wobble, who doesn't need applause to move forward. You show this by leading. Leadership is decisive, not arrogant. You say, let's do this, instead of, what do you want to do? You move with certainty. Real-world example, you meet for coffee. Most men would talk about their career or travels to impress. You don't. You sit down, relaxed and grounded. You ask about her values. You listen without needing to agree or disagree. You talk to connect, not to win. She leans in not because you performed, but because you are anchored. You aren't chasing her attention, you're commanding respect. Stoicism teaches that you don't live to please crowds, you live to align with your principles. You don't shape-shift to fit what she wants. Your job is to reveal who you are through your actions, your eye contact, and your ability to say no without flinching. That is leadership. That is real masculine energy. It is not loud, but it is unforgettable. When you lead with stability, you give her something rare, a man she can trust even when she is uncertain. 5. Don't project long-term fantasies, observe, don't imagine. You've just met her, and your mind is already racing. What if this becomes something serious? You picture vacations, family dinners, a future together. You're building a fantasy in your head, and your emotional investment is already real. This is a dangerous trap. The moment you start projecting a future, you stop seeing her clearly. You begin to respond to who you hope she is, not who she's actually showing herself to be. Every red flag becomes just a phase. Every gap in values is something we'll work through. You become addicted to a fantasy. When this happens, she feels the weight of your expectations. This pressure isn't flattering, it's suffocating. She's just getting to know you. Stoicism teaches us to stay rooted in the present. Dating isn't fantasy building, it's data collection. Your job is to pay attention to where the relationship is, not where you hope it will go. When you project too far ahead, you lose presence. You miss key signals and tolerate behavior you wouldn't accept from anyone else. You justify disrespect or immaturity because you're already attached to a version of her that doesn't exist yet. Real-world example, Dean, 52, met a woman in her mid-20s. Within 2 weeks, he told his friends, "I think she could be the one." He started changing his routine and skipping business trips to fit hers. But she was flaky, inconsistent, and often cancelled at the last minute. Instead of confronting it, he romanticized it, telling himself, "She just needs time." She eventually moved on, and Dean was devastated, not because of what he lost, but because he was grieving the future he had created alone. This is what projection does, it builds castles in your mind that reality can't support. 6. Don't be her backup plan, be a standard. Here's a hard truth, you may not be her first choice. You may be the, just in case, the emotional crutch she leans on when the guy she really wants isn't around. You become her therapist, her safety net, but not her priority. You'll confuse this attention with affection. She'll text you when she's bored, call you when she's sad, and flirt just enough to keep you around. You justify it by telling yourself she's busy or figuring things out, but deep down, you know you're her convenience. Women don't fall for men they can lean on, they fall for men they can look up to. If she knows you will always be there, no matter how little she gives in return, she stops valuing you. Humans devalue what's always available, especially when it costs them nothing. Stoicism teaches us to honor the self and withdraw from anything that disrespects our standards. Being a backup plan is a silent killer of masculine energy. Slowly, you shrink yourself, becoming more agreeable and less honest. You filter your truth so she doesn't walk away. But women feel your worth when you set boundaries and mean them. Real-world example, Paul, 47, started talking to a 26-year-old. She was magnetic but unpredictable. They hung out, but she never made anything official. She'd ghost for days, then call him crying about another guy. Paul, thinking that being supportive would win her over, would pick up every time. One day, she told him, "You're like my safe place." He realized it wasn't romantic, it was convenient. He cut contact. Months later, she reached out, but this time her tone was different. She had lost her safety net and, in doing so, had found a new respect for him. He became a standard, not a safety net. 7. Never lose your mission for her. This is where a lot of strong men get weak, when the chemistry is high, and she starts to feel special. You begin to think maybe she's worth bending for. Little by little, you skip a gym session, postpone a work goal, or spend less time on your business and more time on your phone. You start rearranging your life to make her feel more comfortable in it. This feels romantic, but what's actually happening is you're stepping off your mission. Women, especially younger ones, don't want to be your mission. They want to feel safe inside the world of a man who is already on one. Masculinity isn't about control, it's about direction. The more clear and grounded your direction is, the more magnetic you become. A man without a mission is just waiting to be replaced. Real-world example, Jordan, 45, a successful executive, met a woman in her mid-20s. Over time, he started changing things for her, skipping business trips, reworking his mornings, and delaying an investment. He looked like he was in love, but inside, he was drifting. He lost focus, his edge, and eventually, he lost her. Why? Because she stopped feeling his leadership. He was no longer the man she was drawn to, the one who was building something, alive with purpose. He had become a passenger in his own life. Never confuse love with surrender. If she is truly right for your life, she will want you to be focused and obsessed with your growth. She will want to fit into your fire, not be the reason you extinguish it. A man who stays on his mission never runs out of options. But a man who gives that up to make it work with someone who doesn't value it, runs out of himself. 8. She wants a rock, not a puppet. Let's get one thing straight, she doesn't want you to bend to her. Even when she tests you, even when she pushes your buttons, what she truly wants is to feel that you won't move, not away from her, but away from yourself. A younger woman may test boundaries to see what happens when she shakes you. Do you wobble? Do you chase? Do you try to guess what she wants and give it to her before she asks? If you do, you are no longer a rock, you are a puppet. A puppet never feels safe. The moment you start rearranging your identity to match her emotional waves, she feels it and the attraction fades. What she truly craves is structure in the grounded energy of a man who knows who he is and refuses to shrink or swell just to make her happy. She wants to test your emotional walls not to break them, but to see if they're real. Stoicism provides the perfect frame for this. Tranquility, stillness, and a silent confidence that doesn't need applause or approval. It means holding your tone when she gets emotional, holding your space when she becomes inconsistent, and holding your path when she tries to pull you off course. Real-world example, Drew, in his 50s, started dating a woman in her mid-20s. She began testing him, critiquing his routines and saying things like, "You'd be hotter if you dressed younger." The old Drew would have shifted, but this Drew just smiled and said, "That's funny. I like the way I move." He didn't flinch. He didn't defend himself. He stayed centered. 2 days later, she asked to see him again. Not because he agreed with her, but because he didn't. That moment told her everything she needed to know: this man doesn't bend. Most women don't trust the man they can control. They want the man who respects himself enough to say no without anger and yes without need. You don't win her heart by becoming her puppet, you earn her respect by staying the rock she can't shake. 9. Don't buy her time, command her attention. There's a dangerous idea that if you offer gifts, comfort, and constant attention, a younger woman will stay. But you don't buy the kind of attention that matters, you command it. When a man overinvests too early, with flashy dinners, constant emotional labor, and extravagant gestures, he signals one thing: my value is external. If I don't spend, she won't stay. When she feels that, she might stick around, but out of convenience, not desire. A woman who has options doesn't need a sponsor, she needs a signal of your restraint and internal value. Commanding attention doesn't mean being loud or arrogant. It means being so centered in your own life that she has to lean in to understand what drives you. It means speaking less, moving with intention, and knowing your time is valuable. Stoicism speaks to this: waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. B1. Real-world example, Dan, 50, met a 27-year-old at a networking event. Most men would have thrown money and compliments at her. Dan didn't. He set plans that worked for him and didn't chase texts. He showed up grounded, present, and decisive. One night, she said, "You're different. You don't try to impress." That's the key. She wasn't used to a man who had such a clear sense of his own value that he didn't need her approval to validate it. Your power isn't in what you give but in what you are. When you stop trying to buy her time and start commanding her attention through your presence and direction, the entire dynamic shifts. You are not a service she can acquire. You are a man she is drawn to. And that's a position of strength that money can't buy. Conclusion: the path of the unshakable man. The temptation to change yourself for a younger woman is powerful. It preys on the fear of irrelevance and the desire to feel alive again. But every time you try to be her age, become her emotional sponge, chase her validation, or abandon your mission, you are sacrificing your dignity for a fleeting moment of attraction. You are trading your authentic, hard-earned masculine presence for the performative insecurity of a boy. The Stoic path is simpler and far more powerful. It asks you to do less, not more. Stop trying to be her peer, start being the rock of your own world. Stop absorbing her chaos, start providing a calm, steady presence. Stop chasing her validation, start finding it within yourself. Stop trying to impress, start leading with quiet confidence. Stop projecting fantasies, start observing reality with clarity. Stop being a backup plan, start being a standard. Stop losing your mission, start holding your purpose as sacred. Stop being a puppet, start being the unshakable man she can trust. When you do this, you reclaim your power. You're not just a man anymore, you are a force of nature. She will either rise to meet you or fall away, but either way, you win. Because you will be a man who is whole, complete, and uncompromised.